Bonjour. Good afternoon, everyone. For those who don't know who I am, I'm Dr. Ilka Lowenstein. I am your wellness consultant. And I know I see a lot of familiar faces here, but for those of you who don't know, I am here every Thursday. You can make appointments to see me on the liveatmerck.ca website, and I can help you with your exercise, stress, sleep, weight loss, and building your resilience. So when I'm not at Merck, I do research with the McGill Comprehensive Health Improvement Program and also a medical scientist at McGill University. And today I'm going to be talking to you about building resilience and preventing burnout. And this is an area that I've been particularly involved in the past 6 months. We were approached by one of our partners, the Canadian Medical Association, who wanted us to develop a program to help build resilience and prevent burnout among physicians. And physicians being caregivers are especially high risk of burnout because exactly that they are caring for others, which puts them at higher risk. So I've been involved researching this area, building different kinds of programs, and what I'd like to do with you today is share with you some of the techniques that I've learned that I think are probably going to be the more useful ones to help you build resilience and prevent burnout. Now, to get you a little bit familiar with the topic, everybody has a questionnaire in front of you. If you don't mind filling it out right away to give you a sense of how your resilience is currently. And for those who will be seeing this not live, I'm going to be putting the same questionnaire on the Live It site under the Prevent It tab. So the definition of resilience is that it's the process of adapting well in the face of adversity or significant sources of stress. And these sources of stress can be work-related, financial, family and relationship problems, health problems, so any real challenges that you face. And really, it means that you have the ability to bounce back from these difficult experiences. And when someone's resilient, they tend to be more self-aware, they tend to be more accepting, and they're open to numerous possibilities. So that's on the green side of the spectrum. On the opposite side, when you have very low resilience, you're at much higher risk for burnout. And burnout's when you are completely physically and emotionally exhausted. And it occurs when you experience long-term stress in your job, or often it happens when it happens a lot of people who are taking care of people with Alzheimer's, where you have to take care of someone and you have these tasks that you have to do for a long and emotionally draining role for a long period of time. You can also experience burnout when your efforts at work have failed to produce the results that you expect. So you start to become disillusioned. People who experience burnout, some of the symptoms are you have loss of confidence, a loss of energy, and a loss of enthusiasm. Now, developing resilience is a personal journey, and although anyone can do it, each person's going to end up using individualized approaches. So I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different techniques and understand that not all of them are going to work for you, but try and figure out, pick one or two that you think that might work and give those a try. So, technique number 1, increase positivity. People who are resilient they experience both negative and positive emotions when they have difficult or painful situations. Now, it's not that they don't feel the bad or experience the bad, but they also find a way to see the good. You know, the whole thing about finding the silver lining in the worst case scenarios. Whereas people who are not so resilient, when they are faced with a difficult situation, all their emotions are negative. Now, it's easy to say, well, become more positive. Well, how do you do that? Well, one of the things is to avoid negative thinking and practice positive thinking. And you do that by noticing and appreciating more positive experiences. And I found this interesting because I never consider myself a particularly negative person. But as I started looking at this, I realized I tend to focus way more on the negative than the positive. And this is very normal. Like, for example, when I drive here on Thursdays, most of the time I'm taking public transport, but on Thursdays, I end up driving. And I realized that when the traffic is bad, I get to work and I'm like, oh, I'm late. Now I have to do this, and I'm rushed, and my day's starting badly. And so it's all negative, and I'm really focused on it. And I tend to ruminate on it. You know, it's half an hour or longer before I'm like, okay, I'm okay now. But when the traffic is good, or even better than good, which is 75% of the time, I get here, I don't even think about it. So it's about focusing on the things that most people, life is good most of the time, but we never really focus on that. We focus on the few times when things are going badly and really focus on that. So then in your brain, all these memories are of the bad things, whereas what we're trying to do is focus more on the good stuff. And the idea is to aim for a 3-to-1 ratio. It's not that you can't have negative experiences or think negatively, but for all the times you're thinking negatively, try and think positively three times for every one. And I tried this with my family one time. We were sitting at the dinner table, and it was a very negative vibe, you know. I have 2 teenage girls, so they were there, oh, you know, this teacher did that, and my friends did that, and it was all very, very negative. So I said, okay, hold on a minute, guys. You know, we live great lives. You guys are smart. You're doing, you know, you're doing well in sports. You have lots of friends. So I said, I want to try something with you. And so I got a big eye roll from them. Oh, here Mom goes again, trying one of our other little projects on us. I said, what I want you to do is, you guys, I don't mind hearing about the bad stuff, but I want to hear about the good stuff too. So for every bad thing you talk about, I want to hear about 3 good things. So, you know, they said, okay. So they started talking about the good things. And I noticed that they started feeding off each other. And everybody got into the act and saying, well, you had this good thing. Well, I had this good thing. And all of a sudden, the whole dinner conversation became this very positive thing. And the whole mood shifted from what was really sort of this terrible dinner to this wonderful experience where everybody was enjoying themselves and everybody left the table in a really good mood. So this is, as a homework assignment, you know, when you guys are having lunch or getting together as a group, notice, is the conversation negative or is the conversation positive? And if it's negative, try and switch it to be a more positive environment, and you'll see that it really helps lift your mood and it helps build your resilience. Number 2, learn from challenges. Nobody likes challenges. You know, it seems like they're obstacles to success. But look at them as opportunities to grow and evolve. And athletes do this all the time. They purposely put challenges in front of them so that they can get better. And it's the same thing here. Challenges are not necessarily a bad thing. They are a natural part of life, and it's how you react to them that's going to make a difference. So how do you learn from challenges? Well, one of the things is use a method called question thinking. So rather than saying, you know, a challenge is dumped on you, and you're like, oh, what's wrong? Who's to blame for this? And think about, you know, what is useful here, or what are my available choices? So for example, everybody's overworked, and someone comes over and they put something else on your plate. And you're like, oh, don't they understand that I already have work up to here, and now they're throwing something else at me? What's wrong? How can they even think that I don't already have enough to do? But these are things that are going to happen. And rather than, you know, blaming someone or thinking this is going to be another crisis, it is an opportunity to learn. If you can, it's going to force you to prioritize. And if you're not good, if you're a procrastinator, if you're not particularly good at that, it's going to make you think more about what do I really need to do and what can wait. Or if you're someone who tends to want to do everything themselves, which really puts you at much higher risk for burnout, this is going to force you to ask for help or to delegate. And you can learn a lot from challenges. And how many of you have seen the show Survivor? Okay, this is the original reality TV show. It's been on the air for 18 years. And what they do is they take 18 strangers and they put them on this island and they force them to work together, but they put them in a very difficult situation. They barely get enough to eat, so they're starving all the time. Most of these people, 39 days is the length of this thing, and they're usually lost at least 15 pounds by the end. So they're really hungry. They build their own shelter out of bamboo and palm leaves, so you can imagine when it rains that they're not particularly comfortable, and they got to live in this thing next to the other people, so you can imagine they're not sleeping very well. And then they got to vote people out so that they're the last person there to win the $1 million, but the people who they vote out are the ones that are going to vote for who wins. So there's this whole psychological component and the stress of trying to work with people, but then having to backstab them, but not in such a way that they hate you. So by the time this is like the most stressful situation that I can imagine. You just don't give me enough to eat and make me not have enough sleep. That's already bad. But then you put me in a situation where you have to deal with all these psychological issues, and it would be, I don't even want to think about it. But when these people are done having to experience this ultimate challenge, they come out the other end and say, this was the best experience of my life because I learned how much I can handle and who I truly am and what's really important to me. So, you know, that's an extreme. But these people, even the most extreme challenge, they say it was life-changing. So little challenges can be important too. And most people who go through very difficult times, when they come out the other end, will often say that this was something that was, I've learned so much about who I am because of it. Okay, number 3, take care of yourself. Healthy habits are really the foundation to both mental and emotional resilience. And this includes regular exercise, getting enough sleep, eating well, managing your stress, all those things that you can come and see me about when I'm here on Thursdays. And if you do these things, you're more likely to be resilient. Now, the key here is about habit. It's not doing it occasionally. It's making sure it's a part of your life. Because as soon as something gets in the way, it's the habits, the non-habits, which are the first things that are going to go. It's only the habits are the ones that are there. So that's why I'm here to help you guys build some of these habits for the taking care of yourself so that you can also help build your resilience. Now, in the meantime, there's a lot of little things you can do to take care of yourself. And some of those are taking regular physical and mental breaks. Go for a walk. Practice deep breathing. That takes no time at all. And even going for a 10-minute walk is very useful. And let yourself daydream. If you think daydream is a waste of time, it's actually very, very important. It's when you daydream that you're building memories and you're processing very emotionally significant events. So it's an important, you need to take a few minutes to daydream as well. Spend time outdoors, getting in touch with nature, and surround yourself with people that you enjoy. Number 4, open your heart. Being of service to others is a very powerful way of building resilience. And, well, how do you open your heart? Well, there's the formal acts of kindness that people associate with that, like volunteering. But then there's a lot of informal acts of kindness as well. And it's simply getting out there and finding people to smile at or say something encouraging to or complimenting. And I just came back from a trip to Fiji this summer, and it's a third world country. It's beautiful, but it's very poor. But the people there are some of the nicest people that I've ever met anywhere that I've gone. And they will always give you a big smile and say bula, which is sort of hello in Fijian. But it's genuine. And it's not just at the resorts. You think, oh, they're all friendly to you at the resorts. But even when you're not at the resort, you can't pass a Fijian person without them giving you a smile and saying bula to you. And what I notice is that as the tourists, they started doing that themselves. Where before you would walk down the beach and you see some coming and you kind of ignore them. Here, you'd look at them in the eye and you'd give them a big smile and say hello. And so even if they're really poor and have nothing, we should, with everything that we have, we should be able to give people a smile, encouraging word, and compliment them. The other thing is it's just as important to be open to receiving these things as it is to giving. And this was a big eye-opener for me because I'm not particularly great at receiving compliments. I sort of downplay it. Oh, yeah. But when I realized that not only is it very important for my resilience, but it's important for the people who are giving it to me. If I'm not good at accepting it, they're not getting what they need by giving it. So it's forcing me to say, if someone says something nice, to actually acknowledge it and say, well, thank you very much. Thank you for noticing, and being much more open to that. So some ways you can open your heart is start a 30-day gratitude journal. And this is just, before you go to bed at night, write a few things down that you're grateful for that day. And if you don't want to write it down, at least mentally think about it. Get a few of your friends together and start a gratitude blog. Or consciously draw attention to the positive things in your life that you normally take for granted. Number 5, hang on to humor. And I don't know how many of you attended, I think it was a few years ago, Dr. DaCosta came in and did a whole talk on laughter, and she made everybody get up and fake it till you make it, until everybody was laughing and really thought things were funny. And it's very important for stress release, and this is also, it's important for building resilience as well. So, how do you increase your humor? Well, actively look for a laugh every day, or try to see the funny side of things. Read the comics more often. Watch funny movies. Watch stand-up. Or hang out with other people who are funny. So it's important. Humor is very important. A few other ways you can build resilience. Take decisive action. So when you're faced with problems, don't hide your head in the sand or pretend it's going to go away. Chances are it's not. So make a decision. Do something about it. All of a sudden, you're going to feel a lot better. Nurture a positive view of yourself. Develop confidence in the things that you're good at, your ability to solve problems. And trust your instincts helps you build resilience as well. And then maintain a hopeful outlook. Be optimistic about what your future holds and visualize what you want. Dream about it, and you're more likely that it's going to happen. And if you're dreaming about the catastrophe that's going to happen, it's more likely that that's going to happen. So you might as well dream about the good stuff. So visualize what you want rather than worrying about what you fear. And I really like that quote too. Okay, now I'm going to flip it all. I gave you a whole bunch of the techniques that move you to the green on the resilience side. Now, when your resilience is low, you're at much higher risk for burnout. So when some of the signs that you may be experiencing burnout is that you feel that every day at work is a bad day. You're exhausted much of the time. You no longer feel any joy or interest in your work, or you can even be depressed by it. You're completely overwhelmed by your responsibilities. You're disillusioned or cynical about your job or even where you work. You feel detached and you're no longer effective at your job. You engage in escapist behaviors, excessive drinking, or you spend the whole evening playing video games. You have less patience with others than you used to, so you're always in a bad mood and you're snapping at people. You feel hopeless or out of control about your life, and you even can experience physical symptoms such as chest pain, shortness of breath, sleeplessness, or heart palpitations. And if you experience any of those last ones, a trip to your doctors is in order. So if you think that you're experiencing burnout and you filled out the resiliency questionnaire and your resilience level was low, it's important to know what you can do about it. And that's what I'm going to talk about on the next few slides. Also know that I've been working in this area now for a little bit, and I can be someone who can help you kind of guide your way through this as well. So it's not going to go away on its own. So if you don't deal with it, the underlying cause is likely going to get worse. So, and understand that recovery is going to take some time, and you need to, there's strategies that you can use, a lot of the ones that I already mentioned for building resilience, and I'm going to mention some more, and you just got to figure out which ones work best for you. So, number one, and this is exercise is also for building resilience, but it's really key for preventing burnout. And it's often the last thing you want to be doing. When you're feeling exhausted all the time, the last thing, oh, now I got to add exercise to the whole list of things I got to do. But it's a really powerful antidote for stress and burnout, and it's something you can do to boost your mood right away. And although the aim is to exercise for 30 minutes a day, you can break it into blocks. So if you can find 10 minutes at lunchtime, that's already a start. And you work your way up. So it's not that there's no time, it's a matter of prioritizing. And if you go for a 10-minute walk at lunch, it can often boost your mood for up to 2 hours afterwards. So, and when you do go for that walk, it's not about, you can have the double whammy by also maximizing your stress release by not focusing on all those negative things, but focus on what you're actually doing. So feeling each step, feel the pavement under your feet, feel the wind in your hair or the sun on your skin. And this is going to help with the stress release as well. And if you want to have an extra benefit, go out with someone else and talk about positive things, and then you get the 2-for-1. Okay, develop and maintain supportive relationships. This is very important. You need to invest in your closest relationships with your partner, with your children, and with your friends, and make this time enjoyable and positive. This is not about getting together or coming home and spending time with your partner, and all you do for an hour is talk about all the things that you hate at the moment. It's about talking about the good stuff. That little experiment I did with my family, it was very eye-opening for me. Try to be more sociable with your coworkers. Take the break, get together, and again, it's not supposed to be bitch fest. It's supposed to be, you can talk about some of the negative stuff, but also talk about the good things that are going on. But there are people that are not going to respond to the positive, that are always negative and are going to bring you down, and you got to limit your contact with people like that. Okay, connect with a cause or community group that is personally meaningful to you. It can be religious, social, it can be a support group. I swim, I'm part of a swim team. It's my happy place. These are people that think like me, and I go there and it just makes me feel good. So you got to find what is that group that is meaningful to you and try and spend more time connecting with these people. And if you have a professional association, that's why the physicians, this is where they go to these professional meetings, and it gives them an opportunity to connect and understand there's other people that are going through the same thing as them. So those social connections for them are very important. And get an outside opinion. Often when you're feeling burnt out, you can't see a way out of your situation. And this is where someone who's neutral, a trusted friend, a counselor, a family member, or myself, can help you find a plan to move forward. Okay, it's important to reevaluate your priorities. By the time you're burnt out, it's a sign that there's something really wrong, and there's something important in your life that's not working. So it's time to think about what are your hopes, your goals, your dreams, and are you neglecting something that's really important to you? And burnout can actually be an opportunity to figure out what makes you happy and to slow down and give yourself a time to rest, reflect, and figure out what's important. Set boundaries. So learn to say no. And it's learn to say no to things that are excessive demands on your time. You don't want to say no to everything, but and understand that when you're saying no to one thing, it opens you up to say yes to something else that you might truly want to do. Take daily breaks from technology. I think technology has lots of advantages, but it diminishes our social interactions when we're always on the phone, and put it away. Go old school. Read a book, or if you're going to want to talk to someone, at least use your phone to actually have a conversation with someone or FaceTime with them, and not to sit there and just look at YouTube videos and things like that, or emails. So taking a break from technology is very important. And one of the things that the Canadian Medical Association was saying is that technology has hurt physicians a lot, because what's changed is that it used to be what kept them going was that interaction with the patients, that feedback, that you're actually helping someone. And now those visits have become shorter and shorter and shorter because they have to do a lot more stuff online. Oh, I got to put all my notes in there. And so they're missing out from something that was giving them the one thing about their job that was really going to keep them resilient. They're doing a less of. So make sure you take some time away. And nourish your creative side. Again, when we're kids, we're so resilient because a lot of things we do are creative, fun. You have art, you have music, you have all sorts of hobbies. You have downtime, you daydream, you play. So go back, figure out what are some of the things you love to do, and go back and try those activities. Or if you didn't have any, try something new. If you have a lot of stress, perfect opportunity to take a yoga class, or if you need to increase your exercise, start to learn how to dance. So there's lots of different opportunities to nourish your creativity. Set aside time to relax. And most people think relaxing is more to meditation, yoga, things, but it could be that you just push yourself away from your desk and take 5 or 10 deep breaths. It doesn't take a lot to just decompress. And if you're having trouble with managing stress, again, that's what I'm there for. And on the website, there's lots of information on the liveitmerck.ca website. There's lots of information for stress management as well. Sleep. I know that sleep is often an issue for a lot of people that have trouble sleeping. That's one thing I can help you with. But what I'm talking about here is if you go to bed at 1 o'clock, you are not going to get enough sleep no matter how good your sleep is. So give yourself more of an opportunity, at least try and get enough sleep by going to bed a little earlier. Because if you're tired, all those problems are just going to seem worse because you just don't think rationally. Okay, then number 4 is reframe the way you look at work. And one of those things is find value in what you do. And even the most repetitive tasks have value in them. One of the things repetitive tasks, you're helping someone with the task that you're doing. So focus on the positives of what you're doing with your work. And even if the best thing about your day is having lunch with your coworkers, that's still a positive. So changing your attitude towards your job can help you regain a sense of purpose and control. Change your work environment. I mean, not everybody likes the open concept, but what's nice about it, there's always little nooks and crannies and rooms and stuff where you can go and work for a few hours where you have a different perspective. Or if you can work occasionally from home, or just find some. I work with Dr. Grover, and he got one of those stand-up desks, and he every once in a while will get up and work, change his view of his computer. So try and figure out how you can change your work environment a little bit. Take time off. When you're really burnt out, one of the things you're going to have to do is take some time. Go on a vacation. If you have to, use up your sick days. If you can, work part-time or ask for a temporary leave of absence. Anything to kind of get you out of that situation. You need to recharge your batteries. You need to regroup and refocus. So it's important to take some time. Also ask yourself, use the word how. So rather than saying, I can't, say, how can I do this? And just by putting that how into the sentence allows you to be more creative and problem solve and move forward. And if you have really big tasks that are draining you emotionally, break them into smaller tasks. And if you have a year-long project, figure, okay, what can I do this week? If you have a day-long project that just seems overwhelming, what can I do this hour to move this project forward? And sometimes just thinking about the bite-sized pieces make it easier to deal with whatever the situation is. Stop being a perfectionist. And people who are most likely to experience burnout are often the people who are perfectionists, because they try to do it all, do it perfectly, and you can't do anything perfectly. So it just sets you up to be disappointed. More often you'll procrastinate, or you'll be exhausted because you're trying to make it perfect, but you just can't seem to get there. So, regularly sacrificing your health, your relationships, or your sanity in order to make things perfect is not a healthy thing. So, set yourself, say, okay, I have this amount of time, I'm going to do as much as I can, and then I'm going to move on. And 95%, look, when we were in school, getting a 95 was usually good enough. I mean, here, if you get something 95% perfect, it's usually good enough as well, depending on what it is. If you're editing a manuscript, you have to make sure it's all taken care of. But, so be realistic on what's expected. And it doesn't always need to be perfect, or in your mind, what's perfect. And don't give up. Okay? There's so many different techniques. Try a few things. If they don't work, try a few other things. There's a way to make it, healthy, manageable, and productive life. But if you've tried everything, sometimes it's just not a good fit with what you're doing, either in the workplace, or sometimes it's not always workplace related, and you need to make a change. And it's a last resort. Try these other things, but it's not good for anybody if you're burnt out. It's not good for the person you're trying to help or their job you're trying to do. So sometimes you just have to cut your losses and try and find a better fit. Or if you're caring for someone, you need to get the help or figure out another solution. Okay, I want to just take 5 minutes to talk about the next exercise challenge. And the reason I'm bringing that up now is because what I've tried to do is combine an exercise challenge with some of these resiliency techniques. It's not going to make your exercise challenge a lot of extra work. It's just a way to make it a little bit more interesting and build some of these things in there. So for example, there's we call it a resiliency assessment. It's actually a burnout assessment, but we're trying to keep it on the positive side. So you have some assessments, mood, stress, that you are already familiar with, and then we added this. So you get points. This is a points-based challenge. Now you still get the most points for exercise. So if all you ever want to do is just your regular exercise challenge, you can skip all this other stuff and just do the exercise, and you'll be helping your team tremendously. But if you want to build your resilience, you can get extra points for doing some of these other things. So setting an exercise goal, reevaluating your exercise goal, reading and rating the daily tips on building resilience. So every day there's going to be a short little tip, and has 5 stars. You rate it, and you'll get your points. The other thing is we talked about building community. And you're going to get points for building community. There's a message board you can post on the message board to encourage your teammates or give them compliments or just a little smile. If you're just checking the challenge results, you find a way to be involved in the community and you'll get points for that. And then each week there'll be a test question, just one, and you get 5,000 points if you answer correctly. And for you guys who actually attended, if you were paying attention, you should do very well on these questions. And then you get some points at the end for doing the follow-up assessments. So this is a 6-week challenge, so it starts on October 1st. And if you were in the last challenge, the Rocking the Rockies, the stair climbing challenge, the teams were just moved over. In the last challenge, we had categories A, B, C, and they were in 3 separate challenges. I put them all back in the same challenge, but behind your team name, there'll be an A, B, C, depending on where you are. So if you were already in the last challenge, you are automatically in this one. If you go into the site, you will see that it's there, and the challenge is open for you to do your pre-assessments, although it doesn't start until October 1st. If you were not on a team but have been in a team before, you probably know who the captain for your department is, or if you have friends that are on the team and you want to join their team, all you need to do is either let the captain know or let me know what team you want to be on. And if you've never been in a challenge, they're fun. They're a good way to increase your exercise. They're a good way to build your resiliency. And I have a few little handouts here which tell you how to get an account, how to get going with this whole thing. And you just have to send me an email saying, I'm interested, or give me your name today, and I'll figure out what team to put you on, and we'll get you going. So, and as an extra bonus, the challenge route is National Parks of Canada. So you're going to be going to all the different national parks. So you can daydream as you're going through the challenge and visualize where you want to go on your next vacation. So that's it. We have about 10 minutes or so for questions. Any questions? Diane has a microphone. If you have a question, just raise your hand and she'll give you the microphone. And no questions about the challenge? Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, but what is the major difference between depression and burnout? Is depression only psychological, whereas burnout is both psychological and physical? And what are the root causes of
They're
each?
not, actually, it's not exactly, there's definitely overlap between the two, because resiliency and depression are kind of on the opposite ends of the spectrum as well. There's definitely more with depression, more of a chemical imbalance associated with it. Burnout, not necessarily. So they're not the same, but there are definitely components that are similar between the two. But most of the techniques will work for both as well. So, the techniques are, even if you're not experiencing any burnout, or if you're not experiencing any depression, these are just techniques that are, like, I've been starting to implement a lot of these things, and I find my mood is better over the past few weeks because I've implemented these things. So there's a plus. Unless you scored perfect on this resiliency questionnaire, some of these techniques can be very helpful.
Ilka, thank you very much for this presentation. It was
welcome.
super interesting.
And anybody who wants any information about the challenge or the teams, I'm here. You can come and see me. Thank you. Thank you.